Hi everyone, I'm Mathias Lewis, and I'm here to talk to you about FOC, or Final Order Cutoff. It is the last chance that we, the comic retailers, have to finalize our orders for comics releasing roughly 3 to 6 weeks out from the Mondays we finalize our orders. We deal with this every Monday, but this is important to you, the consumer, because it is the perfect time to reach out to your local comic shop if you want any specific or guaranteed items. If you want the Jim Lee or Dan Mora covers of Justice League Unlimited, reach out to your local comic shop and let us know. If you want the new issue of Lilo and Stitch, this is the perfect time to tell us. Because as long as you can get us the orders before Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, that will give your local comic shop retailer enough time to finalize that order, adding in whatever it is you want, so they can guarantee when it releases, we have a copy set aside waiting for you. So, always reach out to your local comic shop before 6 p.m. on Mondays with the comics you want. The sooner, the better, to guarantee they're waiting for you.
All right, and this week is a big one, and not just for the big two. A lot of incredible comics on FOC for this Monday, September 1st. We have quite the show for you. But I want to remind everyone before we dive into it, there are two key places these days to look up all the comics on Final Order Cutoff. If you're after things like Marvel, Oni, Marvel, IDW, Dark Horse, Kodansha, Distillery, Boom, and Ignition, you're going to want to check out prhcomics.com, which I can show you on screen right now. Going to prhcomics.com, you'll see a simple website like this. You'll want to just scroll down a small bit to where it says FOC September 1st, 2025, which would be this Monday. And clicking that will get you over to a large list of all of the incredible comics from Penguin Random House distribution that will be on FOC this Monday. However, if you like your DC, Oni, Image Comics, Rebellion, and more, you're going to want to go to lunardistribution.com. Lunardistribution.com will give you a website like this where you'll see all the amazing comics on distribution or on FOC from that distributor. You'll just scroll down a small bit to upcoming FOC, make sure you're on the right date, September 1st, 2025, and you can see all of those comics on FOC. But before we talk about all those incredible comics that are on FOC, I want to introduce a wonderful guest who has multiple comics on FOC this week from both distributors, because he is perhaps one of the most prolific writers of comics in the modern era, with works at DC, Marvel, Oni, Dark Horse, Valiant, Vault, AWA, Titan, Mad Cave, and so many others. And now launching his first title at Ignition Press, we have the incomparable Cullen
Bunn. Man, that intro made me tired.
I imagine writing as much as you do makes you tired. I don't know how you ever have the time for it.
It's just like, it's just like any other job. You just have to be in it, and you have to, you plant your behind in the chair and you put your fingers on the keyboard and you get going. And you just, sometimes, some days, like any job, it's a slog. Most of the time it's a lot of fun. And I can remind myself that I get to tell stories for a living, which is kind of awesome.
I mean, the crazier part is just the high amount of success. Not only are you writing more scripts than I feel anyone else in the modern part of the industry, you're also writing some of the best scripts. You are a master of horror, and we need to talk about a couple of those today.
All right, let's get to it. I appreciate it. I do think at one time I would have agreed with you that I was probably writing more than anybody else. I think there's some people I think there's some writers who have surpassed me these days. I'm slowing down in my old age.
I mean, I would love to dive into that, but I feel that's a whole other conversation.
It is. It's a long story, yeah.
So let's talk though about this new publisher who's soon to have their first book hitting stands, Ignition Press. Before we dive into your book there, can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with Ignition Press?
Yeah, Ignition Press is a new publisher, but it's weird when I hear that. Yeah, I mean, their first books are just now starting to come out. But I've known all the people who are running Ignition Press for decades at this point, for as long as I've been as I've been working in comics. So in a lot of ways, I don't think of them as a new publisher. I just think of them as this is a publisher they've got so much bench strength, and they've They've got so many awesome ideas, and they're so well put together as a publishing outfit that it doesn't feel like a new publisher to me.
I would absolutely agree. I mean, everyone from Philip Sablik to Jeremy Hahn, we've seen these names throughout the industry. Oddly enough, both of them at Top Cow 2 decades ago. But
Yeah.
Boom Studios, in the way of Jeremy, everything from Image Comics onward, they have a great track record. So it's exciting to see them put this together.
Yeah, it's really exciting what they're putting together, and they're taking all the things, all the lessons that they've learned, and all the ideas that have come to them over the years, and they're putting them together to create something that I legitimately think is kind of special.
Yeah. And part of that is putting together a veritable Justice League or Avengers super team of creators, of which you're one of them. And you have your first project going on FOC this Monday, September 1st, in the way of Deluge. Can we bring that on, Kyle? All right. Tell us about Deluge.
So Deluge is a survival horror story. They're not too far from where I live. There's this giant sprawling abandoned building covered in weeds. It's all rotting, set off from the road. And if you drive down the little path to get to that building, a state trooper just mysteriously appears and tells you have to vacate the area immediately. And I became fascinated with this building, and I found out that it was a prison in the 90s that was built on a floodplain. And it flooded rapidly, so quickly that they couldn't evacuate before it flooded. They were evacuating prisoners during the flood. And that idea has just rattled around in my head for years now. Just it's always there. It always keeps surfacing. So Deluge is about a women's correctional facility built on a floodplain that gets hit with a flood. And as the waters are rising, and as they're trying to evacuate the inmates and the guards, something surfaces in the waters, wash something up, something terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy concept, because I can say, in preparing for this interview, I've long had a small obsession with the American prison system, and particularly where we build prisons. But
Yes.
This is a crazy thing that you can go back to, the Orleans Parish prison, that was flooded during Katrina in 2005, the Carroll Young complex in Dixon, Texas in 2017. We just had 2 prisons in Southern California, San Joaquin Valley, faced flooding. Fulton County Jail in Georgia, literally last week, flooded. And there's countless scholarly, writings about this. This is not an uncommon thing. And yet, this is something that is just a story that has been waiting to happen. So, aside from your case, what drove you to particularly make this the setting of a horror?
So, even if we go past the idea of the isolation and the imprisonment aspect and the claustrophobia of it and the rising waters, a prison like this one, it's the stories of guilt, the stories of sin, the stories of if you read any of the stories of some of these inmates, sometimes there's questions of, do they really deserve to be there? And to me, that's a horrible feeling, the sense of helplessness. And I felt like all of those kind of emotional beats, all of those questions, it made it a terrifying setting even before the waters start rising, even before something comes up with the water. It was already sort of it was a place haunted by the living in a lot of ways. And that to me made it just sort of this amazing setting for this kind of story.
Yeah, I can honestly say it is a truly multi-layered story, because, as you said, you have the characters, which is the first bits of horror and emotion driving it. Obviously, flooding in a place where you're trapped because you're in prison, literally, adds to it. But then you can see the hints on these covers that there is something far darker to this.
Yeah, this is not a slow moving story. This story throws us right into, I throw you right into it. And I think I've done my job right in that you're reading a certain kind of story, and then and you think you know where this thing is going, and then there's a moment where a switch gets tripped, and you're like, oh no, everything's different now. This story just got turned on its ear, and this is not what I was expecting. And there's a few moments in that like that throughout the series that I kind of try to trip you up and make you realize that what you have been reading is about to change drastically.
Absolutely. And now, when you say it is not a slow-moving one, going in further, while we are currently about to finalize orders for issue number 1, releasing in select stores on September 10th, alongside Ignition Press' first book, Murder Podcast, is going to be an ash can for Deluge, which has what you guys call a cold open story. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Ignition has this idea for these cold opens, which are short. It's almost like a sampler of what you're going to get. Now, these are completely new stories. These are stories. This isn't the first 10 pages of the first issue. This is its own story that, for different books, you approach it in different ways. For Deluge, I approached it as it's a story of some things that are going on to give you a taste of, to give you a hint of what you're about to get into. The challenge with it was I didn't want to spoil the main series. So this is a quick short story that I think has some really cool beats to it and really interesting characters, but it spoils nothing for issue 1. So I think it's a great introduction to the concept of what you're going to be getting into. But I do play it a little cagey. I'm definitely keeping some secrets from you in this cold open. But it's just like if you go to a movie, a horror movie has these great opening moments that kind of have a shock that whet your appetite for what's to come. That's what we're doing with this.
All right. So you're definitely going to want to reach out to your local comic shop before September 10th or on September 10th to see if they're going to be getting the ash can of Deluge. But this Monday, you're going to want to get your orders in, because I can tell you, this series is amazing. The last page splash, it's going to catch you so off guard. I guess it wasn't the last page, but the ending twist.
It's the kind. Look, it is the kind of story where I'm hoping when people read it, they're going to be like, "What the heck is Cullen doing? What are you doing here? What just happened to me?" And that's that's one of the things I love about stories like this. It's one of the things this, like I said, this setting and these characters just kind of let me lean into that.
Yeah. But this isn't the only thing you have on FOC this week. Also, over at Oni Press, you have the final issue of Six Gun Battle for the Six.
Yeah. That's our Brian Hurt and I returned to the world of the Six Gun, our triumphant return with these 3 oversized issues to kind of set up a new, it's telling a new story in the world of the Six Gun, featuring some of the characters from the Six Gun and from Shadow Roads, which was a book we did together a couple of years back to follow up the Six Gun. This is sort of bringing all those elements together. And yes, it's a Western, but as you look at the cover, it definitely has a knight fighting a dapper fellow with a glowing sword. And then, so it's not the kind of Western you would expect, I don't think.
Yeah, and you and Brian have been working on this for 15 years now, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think it's 15 years since the first issue of the Six Gun came out. And that series ran for 50 issues plus a bunch of spin-offs and miniseries and things like that. So this is just it's our baby. We can't turn our back on it.
Yeah. I mean, you had the original series in 2010, you had the Shadow Roads series in 2018, And now we have this 3-part Battle for the Six that's about to wrap up. It will be issue number 3 on FOC this Monday, and will release September 24th, a week before Deluge. And the first 2 issues are in stores right now. But for people who are longtime Six Gun fans, or perhaps just discovering it with this miniseries, is this going to be the end? Because I know when you guys did a Kickstarter a while back, you kind of gave some hints of a 2026.
This will not be the end. I mean, this is setting something up bigger than us. This is, you know, Brian and I, we ended the Six Gun where it needed to end, and we were very happy with the way that story ended. And we weren't going to return to it unless we had something substantial, something that was not going to cheapen the story we told before. But it's a bigger story. It's so this is definitely not the end of the Six Gun.
Awesome. Now, for people who haven't entered it yet, who can go reach out to their local comic shops and order the trades, the slipcase editions, the compendiums, and all, what is the story of Six Gun, and why should people be checking it out?
The Six Gun is an epic fantasy set in the Old West. It's a story of 6 magical pistols. Each one has a unique power. And the most powerful of those weapons ends up in the hands of an innocent farmer's daughter. And it turns her into the deadliest gun in the Old West, but it also sets the forces of darkness against her. And from there, it just blows out into this giant, sprawling fantasy epic set in an old, you know, with all the tropes of Westerns. It's a weird Western. It's a horror story. It's a fantasy story. It's just it's one of those things, you know, I'm full of, you know, just like every other creator, I get down on the stuff I've done. Sometimes I'm like, oh, this story wasn't the best, whatever. No, the Six Gun, every issue was killer. It never missed its mark. It's one of the books I'm most proud of, you know, from my entire history as a comic writer. And I don't know many people who give it a shot that don't like it. I think, you know, at conventions, a lot of times people will buy the first trade, and I'm like, all right, I'll see you tomorrow. And they're like, what do you mean? Well, you're going to come back tomorrow and you're going to buy the rest. And it happens so often because I think it's just, there's something about people who love Westerns, who don't love Westerns. There's something about this book that will hook them, I think.
100%. I know that you caught me around 2011 with that, and I had to go on eBay to track down issues because my local shop was out. But for those who don't go back all 15 years, they just want to go back 2 months. Mm-hmm. What's the tale of Battle for the Six? Because that has a lot of other, you know, tropes in it.
It does. So Battle for the Six, you can read it without, if you just want to pick this up, you do not have to read the original series. We set it up and we explain everything that's going on. If I think back, even in the original Six Gun series, we threw readers into it. We don't try to over-explain the lore of the world. We let the reader learn that as they go along. And with Battle for the Six, we're doing that again. And you know, pitching it is a little different because it risks spoiling the original series. But I'll say that there's a group of unique individuals, mystic individuals, adventurers, law officers who have come together in this group we're calling the Hunting Party, that is kind of standing between our world and myriad forces of darkness that are left over from other events. And in this story, they've learned that the Six, which are these powerful guns from the Six Gun, are being summoned into their world. And that's and if the Six are going to exist in the world, they have to make sure that the people who control them are good people, not people who are nefarious or evildoers. But of course, the evildoers are on the case. They are really trying to grab it. So we've got these two opposing forces. This group we're calling the Cabal versus this Hunting Party. All of them trying to gain control of the Six.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you did that because I would have spoiled things. But
It's tough. It's tough to, you know, it's tough to give a summary without spoiling anything important sometimes. That's why movie trailers are such an interesting art form, I guess. If they can make a great trailer without spoiling it, you know.
So Deluge over at Ignition Press you can find on PRH Comics. Sixth Gun you can find over at Lunar Distribution. But there's another one at Lunar Distribution that'll be on FOC next week. And while you've created your own amazing universe with Brian over on Sixth Gun, next week you're going to be playing in L. Frank Baum's infamous world, Ultimate Oz Universe, as its first original graphic novel on FOC.
Yeah. What a weird book for me to be writing, right? It's not what anyone would expect from me, is to do an Oz book. But it was such a cool project. I couldn't pass it up. It's so interesting because it's one of the truest representations of the Baum books. It is a true representation of the world of Oz as presented in those books. It is the most Oz of any comic I've ever seen. But we're introducing so many crazy, interesting concepts that don't change the direction of what Baum was doing. It doesn't change Oz for the diehard, you know, Oz fans. They're going to get exactly what they want. But when you have Mike Deodato Jr. drawing an Oz book and doing what I consider, without hyperbole, the best work he has ever done, it's you're going to get some insane designs, some really amazing characters. You're going to be seeing, you know, really what most people know of Oz is the Wizard of Oz, and that's just scratching the surface of this giant world that we're going to explore in the Ultimate Oz universe.
And I mean, you're not wrong on this. This is not the creative team I would have ever thought to go drop into, you know, into Oz or even in Kansas. You know, perhaps more fitting, you know, I guess in Kansas. But Mike Deodato Jr. and you are working together at AWA. And I mean, perhaps that's the reason why this spring, when this was originally a Kickstarted graphic novel, it raised over $100,000.
Yeah.
Like a crazy amount. And the thing I love about this is that you guys can go to your local comic shop and still order this and get it at the same time the Kickstarter backers are as a soft cover, because it releases November 12th.
Yeah.
So is there anything more you want to talk about on this? Because a lot of people, I think they're very limited in their Oz knowledge to simply the Wizard of Oz and perhaps a bit of Wicked nowadays.
You know, it's interesting because one of the reasons Axel Alonso, who pulled this book together, brought Mike and myself onto it is he really wants to build. I mean, he's worked in building, superhero universes. He was at Marvel for so long. And he wants to build. I mean, they call it the Ultimate Oz universe because they're building this universe. And like I said, there's just so many interesting characters, new takes. This book takes place right after the events of Wizard of Oz. So we're not retreading the Wizard of Oz story. This picks up right after Wizard of Oz. The characters you know and love from that story are there, but then we're introducing just a host of other characters, and you'll quickly see it building to something really, really big.
That's awesome. So that'll be from AWA. That'll FOC next Monday, or a week from this coming Monday on September 8th. But it never hurts to let your local comic shop know early what you're looking for, because there's another great one also. I get to go over more FOC titles with you than any other guest we've ever had, because you have so many. But also on the 8th is a trade paperback to a series that just wrapped up that I love to death.
I forgot this one was coming out. I forgot it was coming up on FOC for this one. So yeah.
Yeah. Dark Horses Arcana Royale. I love this book. Please share with everyone what they might have missed out on if they weren't grabbing the single issues.
So Arcana Royale is basically, if you've ever, read or watched one of those gambling stories, Rounders, or any story where people are playing cards, or if you've just watched the World, the World Series of Poker, or any of those kind of events. This book is about an event like that. It's a card tournament, but it is played with mystical tarot cards that shape reality, that control reality, and the wagers are you're waging, moments, fateful moments as the players are competing in this game. And the winner, it's a real winner take all, because the winner is gifted the ultimate prize is pretty impressive for the winner. But it's a card game played by ghosts and monsters and robots and magicians, and it's just a strange host of characters playing the most dangerous card tournament ever.
But I feel the most interesting part about it is our protagonist, Hudson Tremaine, is not one of those.
She is not. What's happened is a group of mortals that are not invited to this tournament. The tournament's really open to these powerful forces, but a group of mortals have figured it out. Have figured out how to get an invite, and they need a car. They need a hustler like Hudson Tremaine, who's she's been kicked out of every casino. She's a broken individual, but she's humanity's best chance of actually winning the tournament. But she has to learn the game, and she has to learn, learning how to play the game. Learning the rules is just one part of it, because then you have to really learn how to play the game, because there are sinister forces at work. There are the game tends to change itself as it plays, and she's got to fake her way. She's got to bluff her way through this tournament.
Yeah, this is an amazing series. Right now, all the issues are available at comic shops. So if you're a single issue person, go reach out to your local shop, see if they have everything, and if they don't, or you're a trade guy or girl, make sure you get this on FOC before next Monday. It releases December 9th. I got one last upcoming FOC item I got to talk about.
This is gotcha, man.
Yeah. In 3 Mondays, September 15th, you have the deluxe Volume 1 hardcover of my favorite Science Ninja team, Gatchaman.
Yeah, my favorite too. As a kid, I was such a huge fan. The cartoon that was running when I was a kid was Battle of the Planets, which was the Americanized version of Gatchaman. But I was just such a fan of those characters, the look of them. I mean, it's hard to overstate how important Battle of the Planets and Gatchaman was to me when I was a kid. That was the thing. If the bus was running a little behind, I started getting real twitchy, because I might miss 5-10 minutes of of an episode, and I could not handle that. That was not to be done. So Gatchaman, the series, Mad Cave put together several writers to do several creative teams to do several different versions of the book. This is the main series, which is in continuity of Gatchaman, the original Japanese cartoon, which ran hundreds of episodes. But this, it was very important to them that this series is canon. It does take place within the framework of that original animated series.
So to prep for this, were you forced to sit down and watch through all of the cartoons?
I don't think forced is the right word, but yes, I watched. They sent me a Blu-ray set, and I watched the entire thing. It was it was delightful. It was interesting because some episodes were dubbed, some were not dubbed. It was just the original series was very different than a lot of what we've seen here. It was a little more violent. Characters were dying. Characters were, getting killed left and right. But it was fun to watch it all, and it brought back so many memories for me, and it was important for me to watch it because I wanted to capture the voice of the animated series. So in my book, it's narrated by, it has this sort of omnipotent narrator. That's because the cartoon had this omnipotent narrator who would sometimes just say, "Go for it, gotcha, man." And I'm like, all right, why not? God bless you, gotcha, man. That's okay. If that's the way it was in the animated series, I'm happy to put that in the book. And it gives it, I felt like it gave it its own, its own vibe, its own, its feel, and it made it I think it's a very accessible series to people who have never watched the show. I think you can pick this up and you will figure out very quickly what's going on with these science ninjas.
Yeah. And I mean, we are, I think, 12 issues out currently of the ongoing series. This is going to collect the opening arcs with artwork by Chris Batista and Pascal Quilano. And I love that it's a $30 hardcover with all of that content. And the turnaround on this is going to be so quick. We FOC it September 15th. It's in stores October 8th, right alongside Deluge #1.
Yeah.
So just amazing stuff. And I mean, you're still on Gotcha Man, right? You're still writing the continuing series?
So I think it's safe to say, because I think a couple of them have been solicited now, my time on Gotcha Man has come to an end, sadly. I just had too many other projects that I had to focus on. You said I was forced to watch the animated series. It feels, this was hard leaving Gotcha Man, leaving the book behind. Sam Humphries is writing the 3rd arc, and but the nice thing is the series I had planned out, Sam's picking that up and he's taking it. So at the end of this arc, or at the end of my run on this, issue 10 or whatever, I leave it in a very sort of a dark place. And Sam has taken that ball and is doing something really cool with it.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, a lot of things on FOC over the next 3 weeks from you, and that's only some of them. But before we let you go, is there any upcoming things that you are working on you want to talk about, or perhaps you want to promote that very awesome podcast on YouTube you do, Colonoscopy?
Yeah, I think, I'm working on a lot of books. I'm working on my next Ignition Press title right now. And it's going to be amazing. It's awesome. I'm getting art for it right now. I got art for it this morning and I'm just blown away. But yeah, the best way to keep up with what I'm doing, I have a newsletter that comes out pretty much every week where I really dive into a lot of different things. You can get to that from my website, which is cullenbunn.com. But if you go to YouTube, you can find, I have a YouTube channel where I do discussions on the horror genre. It's called The Colonoscopy, a deep exploration of the horror genre, where I talk to a lot of different creators and horror experts and just horror fans. And it's just a show. Every episode we talk about a specific topic. We make a lot of recommendations for books, comics, movies, TV shows, music, games about, that fall within that topic. And it's just really about the love of the genre and just and having a good time talking about it.
Awesome. Love it. Now, aside from your website, your podcast, and your email,
Mm-hmm.
Where else can people find you online so they can discover all the incredible things that you're putting out?
I mean, those are the best, probably the best spots to really keep up with me, especially the newsletter. I'm on Blue Sky. I have I have a Facebook page. I probably don't keep up with those as well as I could. I have a Patreon page where I post a lot of sneak peeks and like daily updates on exactly what I'm doing every day work wise. And those updates are on Patreon. You don't have to pay for those. Those are just, you sign up and you can see these updates every day if you really want to get in the weeds with what I'm working on.
Awesome. And all of that's available on your website?
Yeah, you can get to everything from my website.
Awesome. Sounds good. I am looking forward to continuing filling more and more bookshelves of purely Cullen Bunn, material. The next few weeks have some amazing stuff.
Well, thank you so much. It means a lot. And thanks to everybody who's putting in an order for these books. I mean, I don't have to tell you, it really, these FOC orders are important. The pre-orders can make a huge difference for the stores, for the creators, for the publishers. They're super important.
Yeah. Some amazing collections, for things that are already coming out. But the big one, obviously, this Monday, September 1st, get your orders in for Deluge. I guarantee you, you're going to get to that last, bit of the story, and your jaw is going to come unhinged right off. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Cullen.
Thank you.
Yeah. I guess you got quite a bit more writing ahead.
I do. I'm going to, as soon as I sign off here, it's back to the grind.
All right. Well, I like that question, Mr. No.
Oh, the emos. So it's probably been a year or two since I have. There is an emos just right down the street from me, but I haven't been there in a while. So this is obviously someone who knows Missouri, and in particular St. Louis, probably. Is that Jim Lee? Because every time I see Jim Lee, he asks me to bring him an Emo's pizza. So.
All right. Well, Thank you so much for joining us, Cullen. We're going to go to a quick commercial break and let Cullen get back to writing so you guys can keep enjoying his works. And then we will talk about all the rest of the comics on FOC this Monday, September 1st.
Sure, comic books are beautiful, but underneath, there's something more authentic and exciting. The original art. See the pencils, the lines, the shading, as if you were there in the studio watching the artist work. Getting a peek at comics' backstage is easy with the original art experience.
All right, Friday night, guys. Thank you for being here. To be doing anything, the fact that you're here means the world to me.
Nick's pieces are always value priced with your budget in mind, for the beginning collector to the veteran.
And this is gorgeous. You got Aquaman and Mira.
Join the original art experience with Nick and our friendly crew of regulars, even if it's just to enjoy the art. Fridays at 7. It's all part of the experience. Live from New York. What? Oh, sorry. Live from Cleveland? It's Friday night? It's Friday Night Live! With Nancy McCann. And Ricky. And sometimes Carlos. And featuring boxes and boxes of rare comics. Unique collectibles. Lots of smiles and conversations with new friends. Friday Night Live with Comics Unlimited. Friday night from 9 to 11 on The Experience.
I love that in the opening, as the guy is flipping through the comics, he's one box over from Six Gun right after we had Cullen Bunn on here talking about it. But how are you doing, Kyle?
Almost like you planned that.
Yeah. I wish we did.
Right?
All right. So we have a lot of comics to get through for Monday, September 1st, FOC. So let's pop over to PRH Comics and take a look.
You know, it would help if I clicked the right button half the time.
Yeah. So PRHcomics.com gets you there. You just click on this FOC. And let's look at all the amazing things. A lot of great second printings, like all new Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider on there, Black Cat, and a few others. But first one I got to talk about is Amazing Spider-Man 13, because it's the Amazing Spider-Man and his cosmic friends as he joins the Rocket Raccoon and some new cosmic characters. Fun one to continue Joe Kelly's run.
Listen, the only cover that's worth getting of this book is the Dave Bardin cover, which is
I love
totally
these
the
Muppets.
70th year of the Muppets.
It's crazy. I mean,
Frogs, Kermit, Thor, and Gonzo Silver Surfer. Come on.
yeah, it's weird that Disney World and Disneyland are getting rid of the Muppets rides and attractions, and yet we're celebrating it, and I'm glad Marvel's picking up the pieces there. A lot of great covers. A lot of the theme covers you're going to see on this as we're getting White Tiger team-ups. We'll talk about that. We're doing the Muppets 70th anniversary, and we're also going to be getting the Tron Ares covers. So a lot of fun ones to pay attention to on Marvel. Another big one, I did not get a chance to, pop it up, but for those of you guys who are fans of Gravity Falls, if you missed out on the Book of Bill, it is a continuation of Gravity Falls from the antagonist's perspective. And there's a new limited edition glow-in-the-dark cover slipcase with extra content. So that's going to be a big one you're going to want to pay attention to. So even though I didn't preload that, it's worth paying attention to. Obviously, we talked up Ignition's new book, Deluge, during the interview. You can see that on PRH with all of its great covers right there. Just 3 covers, 1 incentive, but this is going to be quite the amazing book. So I am excited about that. A lot of amazing books that we don't have the time to cover all of, but please pay attention to PRH Comics and lunardistribution.com to see all of them. Some very interesting titles, including Event Horizon, which, that issue number 1 was insane.
Coming right out of Deluge, though, on the PRH website are the Inside Out 2 Emotions books.
Yes.
From DK. Those are really great, especially if you're like trying to help kids understand how they're feeling, or you're trying to help adults who generally don't take time to express their emotions because they're too busy working, to help them express their emotions. And by the way, if you just scroll up just a little bit, that one right there at the end of that line next to the Deluge, that's what's inside my brain right now. So let's just understand, it's a great way to be like, show me on the book how you are feeling. And those are great examples of that. So
absolutely. I was talking with one of the reps at Penguin Random House, and they were specifically talking about how well these were constructed and put together with actual psychological background and the like, to be tools used with a wide range of people. And then the fact that they were able to get Disney to combine that with perhaps one of the best possible subjects, Pixar's Inside Out. So should be interesting books. Definitely something unique that you can ask your local comic shop to order. Huge one that I was never expecting, never in my life did I think we were going to get a crossover of the Fantastic Four and Gargoyles, let alone to get Greg Weisman, the creator of the Gargoyles cartoon, to pen this series. It's great already that we are getting a revival of Gargoyles thanks to Disney Plus, thanks to Dynamite with the Gargoyles ongoing series and various spin-offs. But then to have Greg come over to Marvel and combine them with the first family of Marvel, the Fantastic Four, this is going to be an exciting series. A lot of incredible covers there. This is just, everything about this looks fun.
there's something to be said for having Silver Surfer and the Gargoyle's name I can never remember. He's the small one that's the funny one. Having them team up, or having Johnny Storm and him team up, where it's you're not one of the super serious characters, but you're also kind of fun and everybody likes you.
Yeah. I gotta say, that Demona and Invisible Woman cover, I get that it's a 1 in 25 ratio by Peach Momoko, so not every store is going to be getting it, but wow, that is an
Well, I'm
awesome.
liking the Scotty Young, to be real honest.
Yeah, Scotty Young's obviously very solid. We've been getting a lot of Scotty Young Fantastic Four recently, but I'm not going to complain about that.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of awesome Godzilla titles and continuing books. But the next one that's worthy of the attention we got to talk about is Hannah Rose May, who brought us The Exorcism at 1600, as well as Rogue. I will always screw up this title. It is Rogue's Gallery. It's got a brand new title over at Dark Horse, The Guy in the Chair. And this takes your classic character like Q or Oracle and puts them as our protagonists rather than the spies. As the guy in the chair in this private military intelligence organization has a crush on his female agent. And when she shows up at his door, beaten and battered, the two of them will have to work together in a romantic comedy, high action thriller to fight back against the giant corporations, the secret governments, and the military industrial complex that has put them in this situation. I know that Hannah Rose
Exorcism.
May is great with this stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah. Exorcism, go ahead.
Exorcism at 1600 pen was one of my favorite books of last year. Of the past year, I should say. So I'm excited to have another book from Hannah Rose May. I like the idea of a spy thriller because Exorcism at 1600 pen had some really good like spy elements like Havana Syndrome and things like that to explain away the exorcism bits. Well, what can you get into when the whole world is a spy world and you're Hannah Rose May, who clearly has a very twisted sense of horror that I quite like. So
Yeah.
very excited for this book.
Very awesome one. And for those who don't know, Hannah Rose May, not only a brilliant comic writer, also a brilliant actress who's doing all sorts of things, including the TV series Ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's one that caught me off guard, but I am very intrigued to read an original graphic novel called How to Say Goodbye in Cuban. This is about the author's father as he left Cuba during the Cuban Revolution, and it is an interesting looking biographical piece that is full sequential art. I am very curious, and I think this is going to speak to a lot of people and their entry into America, as well as talk about a very specific time and place of Caribbean history. So, very unique one. I wanted to put it on everyone's radar because I think this is not one that every comic shop will stock. But if it's something that speaks to you, it is definitely something you should request before Final Order Cutoff this Monday from your store. Again, lots of incredible trades and ongoing books, even boxes. We're going to get our first of several facsimiles from the Marvel and DC crossover or merger of the Amalgam books with Spider-Boy getting a facsimile edition. These are hard comics to find nowadays, even though they were printed in such high volume. So an affordable $5 facsimile, can't complain. And it's kind of crazy because it's going to mess with a lot of comic shops, considering there is a Spider-Boy comic nowadays that is not the conversion of Superboy and Spider-Man. An interesting one coming from Boom Studios. Megan Fitzmartin is doing Mary Sue, which is a comic about a young girl who all of her friends tend to be online. And they're all people who get along with her community of their favorite online stories. Our protagonist, however, writes her own fan fiction. And when an ex-friend goes to her high school and outs her, reading her fan fiction out loud, she's embarrassed. But thankfully, her own Mary Sue protagonist comes to the real world to protect her and defend her as a bit of a vampire slayer, Buffy-esque character. However, is that Mary Sue character really going to help her in her high school, society, or is it going to make her life worse? This is a fun-looking and goofy book I cannot wait to read because I really don't know where it's going to go. But is it going to, take the fun of fan fiction and Mary Sue in a very serious way, or is it going to be light and, very parody-esque? I don't know where your thoughts are on that, Kyle.
I don't know. I was looking at this earlier trying to figure it out, and I don't really have a really good vibe on it. I will say this: there is a beautiful cover of this book from Paulina. I can never say her name.
Ganusha?
Ganshao.
Ganush,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? You're
Anyhow,
right. It's a unique name.
it's a complicated name, but the artwork is really good. So I'll be interested to give it a shot, just based off that cover art.
Yeah.
And the Tuolote art, like on the 1
Yeah.
in 15 incentive. So, like, there's enough here to give me reason to pick it up, even though I'm not 100% sure how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting one. Definitely one to let your comic shop know if you're interested on. Masterminds continuing on from the great Zach Thompson Zach Kaplan.
Yep.
Too many Zachs in this industry. Zach Kaplan. If you didn't read issue number 1 this week, you need to go to your comic shop and pick that up. It was an amazing starter. We had Zach back on the show when it was on FOC, and I have been dying waiting to read issue number 2 for some time. So this will be a fun one. Next big one I really want to talk about, though, you can see some of our first Tron Ares variants on New Avengers with Laura Kinney rocking the Tron outfit. This is actually the second time back when Tron Legacy came out. Marvel did a Tron Legacy line of Tron variants that all have a great value on the aftermarket. So don't sleep on those if that's something you're speculating or collecting on. Plus, Tron Ares just looks awesome. I'm excited about that trailer. 9 Inch Nails soundtrack and everything. I will buy some variants and blast some 9 Inch Nails as I look at them. Kyle disagreeing with me. Kyle giving me the judgy look.
I'm trying to decide if we've had too many Trons at this point.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. There was a moment for Tron, and now it's feeling like, wasn't this supposed to have happened by now? Where's my stupid laser bike?
Yes, I am kind of shocked we have not been able to inject ourselves into the mainframe and throw laser discs at one another. But I mean, it's also an interesting point that I think that Tron Ares makes. But until we get
listen,
Tron
laser
Ares,
discs, we can throw laser discs at each other because nobody has anything to play them.
there it is. So instead of going forward, though, let's go backwards. Back to the Cold War with the spiritual successor and perhaps direct successor of Blue Book. James Tynion is back with Red Book. Red Book is going to deal with the 1959, I will always screw this up, event the Jaltalov Pass incident. I cannot pronounce that. But it was an incident where several hikers ended up dead for completely unexplainable reasons because these were experienced hikers. Now, James Tynion and Michael Avon Omen are going to explore that concept with Omen doing the artwork. I am all for this. Red Book will be an interesting extraterrestrial look at Cold War Soviet era experiences and paranormal acts. But I'm excited about this. I don't know about you. Were you a fan of Blue Book, Kyle?
I love Blue Book. I think Michael Avon Oeming's art is one of the most interesting art styles out there. And on Blue Book especially, it lent itself so beautifully to that story. Red Book being a Cold War story, being this particular story, is also very interesting because it's not one you see a lot. It's not one you hear adapted a lot. So it'll be cool to see what they do with it.
Yeah, and some great covers on there. One of them definitely getting a big note when we get to our top 10 later. All sorts of fun. For you, Something is Killing the Children's fans, I mean, obviously I'm wearing the shirt right now. You might have missed out in Hello Darkness, the horror anthology from Boom. The opening few issues had short stories by James Tynion IV and Werther Dell'Edera featuring Erica Slaughter of the Something is Killing the Children universe. And now all those stories are getting collected in a single book. A monster hunter walks into a bar, which plays kind of a bit of a prequel to the opening arc of Something is Killing the Children. So, fun standalone issue. If you didn't grab those Hello Darkness, or even if you did, this is going to be a one-shot you're going to want that adds to Erica's story and gives us tales from a perspective that is not Erica. So, definitely something for you completists to grab. A lot of great covers available on that. As always with Something is Killing the Children. Here's one I didn't think I'd ever get to say on this, but Eric Larson is back on Spider-Man. And it's not just this. He's also going to be doing a Venom book. But Eric Larson is back, and he's tackling Spider-Man Noir in advance of the upcoming TV series starring Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man Noir. So Eric Larson writing it, Andrea Brocardo doing artwork. We're going back to the 1930s for a pulp noir detective story of Spider-Man, as the dame that walks into the detective agency is Gwen Stacy. I still love Eric Larson's Savage Dragon. It's out there. Oh, is it out there? But I am so curious to see him tackle Spider-Man after all these decades.
I just will say, if any of our friends at Marvel are listening, pay Fabrice Sapolsky.
Oh. Okay.
That's how I feel about Spider-Man Noir.
All right. Well stated. A lot of great covers on that. Another one I want to talk about, because this has been something that has been percolating for almost a year, if not more. Spinning out of the Spirits of Vengeance series is Spirits of Violence. Spirits of Violence collects all of our favorite Ghost Riders and Hellions, including Helverine, the Spirit of Vengeance, our various Ghost Riders. Sabir Perzada, who did the incredible Miss Marvel series, is working with Paul Davidson on this. And with everything that's been going on in Hell, from the Bring On the Bad Guys, from Helverine, the Inferno Hulk, I cannot wait for this. I don't know why this book got pushed back so many times. Perhaps this is the right place for it, the right time, but I am excited about this. A lot of great covers on there, too. I mean, are you enjoying the various Hell characters or Ghost Rider-driven forces in the Marvel Universe lately?
I'm very specific on my Ghost Riders.
And we're getting
I feel like anyone who lived through the Nicolas Cage trauma has very strong feelings about which Ghost Riders they like and which ones they don't.
So I'm curious, speaking on that note, and obviously just coming out of Spider-Man Noir, where are your thoughts on Nicolas Cage in Spider-Man Noir?
Pay Fabrice Sapolsky.
All right, there it is. Some deep thoughts from Kyle for Marvel to take.
Listen, if you're not going to pay the co-creator of the character and you're going to keep using the character, I'm going to keep calling you out on not paying the co-creator of the character.
Like it. All right. So I don't disagree with what you're saying. Just to be very clear.
And since some of the bigwigs at Marvel already think I'm a witch,
there it is. All right. Heading away from Hell and into space, we have Star Trek Lower Decks, which I will hope never ends. Star Wars continuing on as we get all sorts of, stormtroopers that could be a little short for stormtroopers, right? Not to mention the great Clone Wars covers with Ahsoka and Anakin right there. Continuation of Hyperspace Stories, Tides of Terrors, which I loved issue number 1, if you weren't aware, so I'm all for issue number 2. Then we're getting the final issue of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles by Jason Aaron before we pass the baton over to Gene Luen Yang. So I'm curious, a year of Turtles, Aaron's put them through hell, but they're all together, and these covers look amazing. What could be the big conclusion to Aaron's run?
I have my guess.
Oh, do you have a guess? Are you going to verbalize it? Or are you going to keep that hidden?
I'm going to keep it to myself only because I don't have a guess for what Gene's going to do.
Very interesting.
Right? So I know where I think Jason Aaron wanted to get to, but that only matters in as much as if Gene is changing direction or is not going to continue that on, it could very easily have been you know, Jason could have changed his mind because to go with it. So,
Yeah. Meanwhile, on the opposite end of Turtles, Peter Laird's epic Mirage run continues getting its reprints with TMNT Journey. We have some great Ultimate Wolverine covers. Look at that incredible Tron Ares cover by the amazing Phil Noto, who I will always adore. He's been doing a lot more Disney work lately, you know, over at Marvel, from Star Wars to, you know, to Tron. So,
see, and mine on this is the Philip Tan variant. I
Philip
just think
Tan,
that's a really cool looking variant.
yeah. A lot of wonderful Ultimate titles as we come to the big 24th month of Ultimates. But a huge one that I have to bring up as we are dealing with the Age of Revelation, spinning in the style of Age of Apocalypse, we're at that moment where you have to start placing your orders for the retitled and renumbered events. And the first big one coming out of Uncanny X-Men is the Unbreakable X-Men. Gail Simone's Uncanny X-Men goes a few months as the Unbreakable X-Men in the Age of Revelation. Here's the big one for you. As we jump decades into the future, how will things change? So this is a big one you definitely need to communicate with your local comic shop. Were you reading Uncanny X-Men? Are you going to continue your Uncanny X-Men into Unbreakable X-Men? Are you putting a pause on it? Let your local comic shop know. We will thank you immensely, because this is a hard one. You know, I was not a retailer during the Age of Apocalypse, but I was a consumer during the Age of Apocalypse. And I know this affected retailers heavily. How will you do this? Were you reading Uncanny? Will you be reading Unbreakable? Were you not reading Uncanny and you want to read Unbreakable? There are so many ways this could affect the stands at your local comic shop, if not all comic buyers out there is trying to do this guesswork. So let your shop know if you're going into Unbreakable X-Men.
Is it possible for you to read Unbreakable X-Men and not hear the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt theme song every time you look at it? I'm interested to know.
I haven't thought about it in a little bit.
My God, they should bring back Kitty Pryde and have the Unbreakable Kitty Pryde and have her just look like the girl from Kimmy Schmidt. I'm just throwing that out there.
I mean, I would be all for reading about her incredibly delightful roommate. Who would be the roommate in that? Who would be the roommate in that X-verse?
Who could Titus Burgess play?
Yeah.
Beast.
What was the character that designed Emma Frost's Hellfire outfit?
Oh, I don't remember now.
I feel that would be who you'd want to go. All right.
Sure.
Speaking of TV series leading to things, obviously with the new Daredevil Born Again season, White Tiger had an incredible MCU debut. So it's time, with all that love and demand for White Tiger, to bring back White Tiger. The White Tiger is reborn as we get Daniel Jose Older, who has done some amazing stories with Latin characters in the prose universes, as well as been a superstar writer of Star Wars High Republic in both prose and the Star Wars High Republic Adventures at IDW and Dark Horse. He is teaming up with Cynthia Paleo to bring back White Tiger into the Marvel comic universe. I am very excited about this. I love Daniel Jose Older's writing, so this is going to be a fun one.
Same. I mained White Tiger in Marvel Snap for years.
Yeah.
And I just can remember people like on the subreddit going, "Who is White Tiger? I've never even heard of this character." Well, now finally there's a comic book for him.
Well, and I really feel this is going to be the Immortal Iron Fist series for White Tiger. This is going to be Jeff Johns' rebirth of Green Lantern. You know, we're going to get a full history, it seems like, of the White Tigers. We're seeing a lot of, you know, great content, which I think will be really fun. You know, it has that little subheader of the Marvel Voices Comunidades. Obviously, they're Latin targeting Marvel books, but I think this is just going to be a fun one. And I think a lot of people who were enjoying the character in Daredevil Born Again will dive into this. So I hope this is very successful. And then just every cover on this looks amazing. Every cover looks amazing on this. So White Tiger Reborn, and for many of us, perhaps White Tiger as the starting point. Next big one is the unique one. Oh, go ahead.
No, Danny just said she loves White Tiger, and I'm going, right?
Yeah, oh, it's amazing. But one that I think many of us love, a classic piece of prose literature, finally getting not a comic adaptation, but a very unique, long overdue piece, an illustrated edition of The Wind in the Willows. You're getting the prose novel with a large amount of illustrations by none other than Mouse Guard's own David Peterson, who is the perfect artist to do the illustrations for The Wind in the Willows. I am excited. I think there's a specific number, over 50 pen and ink drawings throughout this book with 20 color illustrations by David Peterson. I am looking forward. I've never read The Wind in the Willows with my son, and this is going to be bedtime storytelling right now. Wind in the Willows with David Peterson. I cannot get over how perfect that is. David Peterson artwork for, Kenneth Grahame's classic novel. So yeah, that's going to be a big one. Not what I was expecting from IDW, but I am 100% in on this. Now for the one that I'm waiting for Kyle to probably boo. So tell me if I'm wrong. X-Men Age of Revelation truly begins. This is your equivalent of Age of Apocalypse's X-Men Alpha. X-Men Age of Revelation, the overture, the start of the big event, with the heir of Apocalypse coming into reign. So if you were excited, this is Jed MacKay and Ryan Stegman, big one-shot that leads into what I cannot really define as a one-shot, the big event for the fall of X-Men, for X-Men this fall. But if you're Kyle, it's perhaps the fall of X-Men. Kyle, give us your thoughts. We need to hear them. Look at all the variants. Will he put?
Those are my thoughts. This could have been really good, guys. This could have been a great thing, but it was just launched and set up and sent to stores so poorly that it's going to wind up playing from behind. Right? Now, you put Psylocke with all that cheesecake on the cover and it's going to sell copies. So, way to rebound there, Marvel. But this is a book that could have entered the marketplace with a ton of hype, a ton of buildup, a ton of buyer excitement. But instead, what we get was this really weird kind of half-assed launch and announcement that came out on the worst possible day at the worst possible time to give people the littlest window they could possibly have to be able to generate any hype in their store for this. So there's a lot of people who are just like, wait, what is this? Why is this? I don't understand. And now we're in a situation where it's too late to correct that. So all we have to do is hope that the book is incredibly good.
Yeah, I will say though, yes, Marvel dropped the ball incredibly on this, but this is the reason why our show, and not just our show, but Final Order Cutoff is so important, because there's still room, but it is now on you, the viewer, and the retailer to get this to you, because Marvel dropped the ball of informing things. The information is out there, but it is not well spread. So this is why it is so important to communicate with your local retailer, or if you are a comic shop, to spread this around to all of your viewers, to your consumers, to your readers, because this information is not as prevalently out there as it needs to be. Please share this show, share this information with all of your comic reading friends, with your local comic shop. If you're a local comic shop, share it with your consumers, because this information needs to be out there. And we have to start finalizing these orders by Monday, and it's important. But I will also say, though, as you talk about half-ass, it is a full ass on that 1 in 100, though. This is one of those times I will say a 1 in 100 virgin variant. Normally, I consider this super lazy. There is no place to put that damn logo that doesn't cover up something on our Germs artwork. So that 1 in 100 virgin is, I think, going to be one of those times where the 1 in 100 really goes for the extra value. So if your comic shop is getting it, that has the high value potential, because there's a lot being covered up on that Our Germ variant by the logo. So A lot to take in there in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different conversations on this. But please, as always, spread this show around, or at least, even if you don't want to spread the show around, spread the information around so people can get orders into their comic shops, and comic shops can hopefully order correctly. But Age of Revelation.
Go ahead.
No, go for it.
No, I'm jumping ahead. I thought you were done.
Yeah. Jed MacKay, Ryan Stegman, these are great creators. There's a lot of potential for this story to be really, really good. Marvel dropped the ball. Let's hope that you guys can all pick it up so that the creators in the story don't suffer. So, where were you going, Kyle?
Right next, X-Men The Undertow, #1.
Yes.
Written by our friend Alex Pagnadell and Tim Seeley. Illustrated by, I can never say their first name, but it's Nevis. And
it's a very Greek name.
Yeah, very Greek name. But Eric Koda as well. Then the variant is a Dan Panosian Juggernaut cover that just feels like a Bowen statue on a page of the Jug there. But this is these X-Men are still uncanny after the fall of Krakoa. Lifeguard must decide what the X-Men's dreams mean to her, and in a world that seems to be growing more unfriendly to mutants faster than she can adapt. And again, Juggernaut.
Well, and I think another cool thing is, this is really, these Alex Pagnadell stories that were originally digital first are really doing a good job bridging the Jonathan Hickman era into the Jed MacKay, Gail Simone era of, post-Krakoa X-Men. And it also is wrapping a lot of stories that you might have fallen in love with and never got closure on, like Beak and his family, which was set up early in the Hickman era, Krakoa era. This is where you're going to get that closure. So, yeah, awesome stuff. I think it's time to switch over to Lunar Distribution, though, and see what DC, Image, Oni, and more are doing, right?
Yes.
So, as always, Lunar Distribution, scroll down a little bit to upcoming FOC. Make sure you're on the September 1st, or the proper FOC on there. And the first one we got to talk about is the Street Fighter swimsuit special. I don't know why all these swimsuit specials are coming out in fall. I get that it's still hot as all heck in Southern California right now, that I'm probably going to the beach this Sunday. But swimsuit era is not an October thing. This is October 1st, but I'm not going to complain about seeing the Street Fighter and Friends characters in their swimsuits. And I will say, it's one of those things that I do love. Despite Udon really stressing the female body on these covers, I do love that in the interiors, you're getting male and female swimsuits. It is fun.
Fan service going fan service.
Yep. Lot of absolute reprints in the way of Martian Manhunter and Superman on this. We also have absolute Wonder Woman getting some incredible love as we wrap up the first year of Absolute Wonder Woman.
And don't miss the Absolute Day Tripper hardcover by Gabriel Ba and Fabio Moon.
Yeah.
Now, I know this is $100 hardcover, but this is one of those classic DC Vertigo books that if you missed it when it first happened, you've not had a chance to really jump back into it.
Reprints. It hasn't. So I'm glad there is an absolute hardcover slipcase. I wish that there was a more affordable option, but this is well worth it.
So I'm saying it's one of those that, those two, Gabriel Ba and Fabio Moon, have done a lot of things together that you know and you enjoy.
Yeah.
So
I love How to Pick Up Women at a Party, obviously Umbrella Academy. These guys are just
right. I wasn't gonna say Umbrella Academy like just outright, but Umbrella Academy.
Yeah. If you haven't checked out the American Comics Books Chronicles, I'm glad that there's a new printing on this. Roy Thomas is definitely a figure that is not getting the greatest of, heads up by some at the moment. I think that Tomorrow's Publishing puts together some amazing historical data, and this has some absolutely awesome chronology of the releases of the height of the Golden Age, in my opinion, the 40s, 1940 through 45.
Yeah, I just picked up a lot of these. I'm really enjoying them. I'm excited to have new printings.
Yeah. We're seeing a lot of great reprints and facsimile from Scholastic, getting us the Amulet series back in there through Lunar. Facsimiles of Classic, in the way of Archie 7 and Betty and Veronica 75 in one facsimile combined. We have a ton of Rebellion stuff, which has been so impossible to get recently.
Matthias, real quick, can we go back?
Yeah.
To all the fighting parts. It's Hannah Sawyer, Dina Micah Fleming. This was a William C. Morris Debut Award finalist from the American Library Association. This is one of those books that, again, you wouldn't generally see in a comic shop prior to now, right?
Yes.
This is a very specific story about growing up in communities that neither Matthias or I can really represent here, but just understand that this is about, sexuality and religion and church and the African American experience all put together into one book. And I've seen this nominated for many, many, many awards, but it was a finalist for that one. And I'm looking forward to, I'm going to get to meet the creative team on that coming up at a small press convention I'm going to. So this is one of those books just be on the lookout for. It's one that could wind up, you could see it next year's Eisners, next year's Ringos, next year's, comic circuit awards, that it's only really been eligible for library awards to this point.
Yeah. No, I'm very glad you pointed that out. Thank you so much on that. So now I'm going to go into a very different and darker realm of Rebellion.
Hold on, before you start that, we should do this because.
And now for something completely different. And now for something completely different. And now for something completely.
I don't know why it's looping.
So Rebellion is a wonderful publisher out of England that you all will likely know best for 2000 AD, Judge Dredd and the Dredd magazine, and hopefully very soon Rogue Trooper. But Rebellion does a bunch of incredible things. And due to issues with Diamond, it was very hard to get in North America. Canada, Mexico, and the United States had a hard time getting this stuff. Lunar is finally getting this out and getting us several years of built-up amazing content back to us. So there's a lot of Rebellion ones to talk about on here. The Art of Carlos Esquerra, The Art of Judge Dredd by Jock, and other amazing things. Reading the full omnibus of the Ballad of Halo Jones, which is an Alan Moore classic in color, all finally coming out now. So I'm excited about a lot of these things. Please pay attention to those Rebellion titles when you see them on FOC. I get that for some of you, these have been out for a while. For some of you who have access to English shipping, which is going to be a lot harder to get to in the US right now, this is amazing stuff. So I'm excited to finally have access to this in my comic shop and hopefully in yours. Kyle, you want to talk about this amazing Eisner-nominated Blackula finally coming out?
So, yeah, Blackula, it's the classic blaxploitation horror film, Blackula, reimagined by the people who brought you Philadelphia. Rodney Barnes and Jason Sean Alexander, published by Zombie Love Studios, which is Rodney Barnes' publishing company. So, again, this is the classic Blackula tale retold in like 1970s LA. And again, it's just a comic book adaptation of the classic story, nominated for an Eisner for the art, I believe, because Jason Sean Alexander's paintings in this are just incredible, and it adds a lot of creepiness to it. Shout out to my buddy Rodney for getting that book resolicited through Lunar.
Yeah, indeed. A lot of great continuing things we can talk about. The Buzzelli collected editions, I should really take a moment and point out that we're getting 3 volumes listed at once of this classic European creator. You're going to get The Labyrinth. You're going to get various works in the way of HP. I think The Revolt of the Wretched is an iconic European and Italian graphic novel. So seeing that is going to be another big one. But yeah, just some amazing stuff. Well, meanwhile, pulling out of Europe, going to Japan, we're getting not only Cat's Eye, but City Hunter. This is Tsukasa Hojo, who did the infamous manga series of the 70s and 80s. City Hunter is getting a lot of big news right now because of the Netflix movie. But Cat's Eye is about to get a brand new anime later this year. I believe it's later this year, possibly early next year. So getting 2 collected editions. These are both set in the same universe. I don't know that everyone always knew. I think a lot of people didn't realize when I was growing up that Cat's Eye was set in the same universe as City Hunter. These characters did cross over and these universes did merge. But this is awesome. We're going to get 2 very affordable omnibuy in the way of $30 a piece for these. Definitely worth paying attention. Thanks to Abrams getting these things back into the manga market.
You know, it's funny with the Hojo books and even the Bazzelli books we were talking about, right? Those are things that you had to be like clued in on back in the day.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the Italian stuff, the Bazzelli stuff was like, that wasn't every comic fan knew about that. That wasn't in every comic store. That was very, very, very extra niche, right? You know, you had to have somebody who was like sort of worldly, or was paying attention to Euro books, or was a Fantagraphics-aholic to know about Bazzelli.
On Gloom and bringing the books back with them.
Right. And it's the same with the Hojo stuff, right? Where it's this idea of somebody kind of had to wave you through the door on that one.
Yeah.
And then once you knew, and you were nuts about it.
Yeah.
But it was easy to miss.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly like Mobius, where it's once you're clued in, man, you're on it. But until you got that nod, you probably missed it.
Yeah. But I mean, if you love people like Mobius or Milo Manara or so many of those other classic European creators, Buzzelli is one of those that is good. If you love people like Kazuo Koike or many of these Japanese mangaka that were amazing, Hojo's one to pay attention to as well. But I mean, this is one of the things we want to do on the show. Like, we could talk to no end about Amazing Spider-Man and Batman. That's easy to talk about. These are the things that your comic shop might miss out on, but it's worth letting your comic shop know you want. Like the Incredible Tomorrow's publishing, books like Comic Book Creator. This one doing a piece on Len Wein, infamous Marvel creator. But there's more you could learn from his DC and Marvel work through this beautiful Frank Cho cover. Of all the things to do, a Frank Cho cover, Batman versus Swamp Thing right there on this. So I love these type of things that are easily missed because they're not always going to be heavily stocked in your comic shop, if they even are. And this is one of the cool things, is that if your comic shop has a Lunar distribution account, they can order these for you if you let them know by FOC this Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of wonderful ones that I don't have the time to talk about all of these, though I would love to. Big one I want to point out, Udon, Darkstalkers Street Fighters. This is not a continuing miniseries. It's a series of one-shots, but this is part 2 of the Lords of Makai. Marshall Dillon doing a great job with this. I mean, look at that. Look at that Cammy love right there. Darkstalkers X Street Fighter, Dark Love. Awesome Brett Bean cover. So much fun on there. Here's a huge one. In the Arrow blind bags, there's 2 blind bags we need to talk about today because we're not going to be talking about the street breaking of Batman. We're talking about DC KO's blind bags, the Lights Out blind bag. You're going to have to FOC this before next week's normal DC KO. There are a ton of potentially amazing covers in there. Jim Lee, Daniel Warren Johnson, Frank Cho, Jay Lee, Scott Koblish, Mark Spears, and more. Mark Spears getting in 2 different blind bags this week. And some crazy high incentive ones that could be in there. Foil and more. It is a $10 blind bag. It is expensive, but it is crazy. If you are hearing about all the Batman blind bag drama, you want to get your orders in to your retailer in advance on this. Plus, it's Scott Snyder writing a, Tournament of Champions insanity with all the DC characters. So, a lot of insanity there. Another holiday one shot. You always get some crazy stories in this. This is Zatanna's Satanic panic with big name writers like Kevin Scott, Daniel Warren Johnson, Riley Rosmo, Andrew McLean, just so much in this. So much in
And
this.
the Lee Bermejo cover, man, on the A,
Oh,
just so gorgeous for Zatanna.
yeah. And we haven't even talked about the incredible creators in there, or incredible characters in there, like Ambush Bug, Zatanna, the Demon himself, Plastic Man, Swamp Thing, a little bit of John Constantine, all this craziness. This is going to be the dark, mature horror one-shot for you DC fans, and 3 incredible covers on it.
Absolutely.
Lots of fun.
Normally,
But
normally I would want to talk about Dead Samurai, but go in and look that one up yourself. There are a lot of covers to choose from, a lot of Bill Sienkiewicz art, but in the interest of time, I will just say there's a Tim Vigil that I may or may not have, ponied up for. So check that one out. But there are so many books on Lunar today. Taking time to hit every one of these little weird indies that I'm going to pick up would have us here for a month.
I mean, and there is a lot. Even right here on what I'm currently hosting, there's a lot. I do want to point out the Mark Spears DC character covers that are in the style of his trading cards. Definitely cool. I mean, yeah, there's just so much. You're going to want to go to lunardistribution.com and look over all of this. All of this. A lot of incredible things on there. God, that collector's edition with the color, pages on Guardians of the Dream Dark. But, again, a lot of things. One I will say, I think so many Spawn fans missed out on Haunt. Todd McFarlane and Robert Kirkman and Joe Casey wrote some amazing stories. Obviously, Haunt plays a major role in both Spawn and now Spawn Scorched. If you missed out on the 28 epic issues of this, you will not find a better deal than the complete collection for $50. That is less than $2 a book. And these books on the aftermarket go for way more. Unbelievable run. You have Ryan Otley and Greg Capullo and Nathan Fox on interiors. Ryan Otley of, yes, Invincible, like Robert Kirkman of Invincible. Greg Capullo of just everything awesome, as he always has been, a huge mainstay in the Spawn universe. Todd McFarlane, Joe Casey, Nathan Fox, just a must-have if you don't own the single issues, and probably a must-have if you do own the single issues, so you just have it all in one binding. That's a hip-breaker binding compendium. Once again, a lot of stuff. Haunted Box, Heat Seeker, spinning out of Gun Honey, Heavy Metal, 3rd issue, has been selling out hand over fist. The Incredible Hornsby and Halo. I got to talk about Hyde Street. Hyde Street. Kyle, did you read this yet?
We're not just going to talk about Hyde Street because Danny's in the comments and will kill us both. This book has gotten better and better as time has gone on. I'm really enjoying where it's going in this second 5-issue set. And to be honest, like the Brad Anderson, Rob Lee 1 in 20 variant there is gorgeous.
I've been loving it. The aftermarket also has been loving those incredible serial Ghost Machine ads. So that one's going to be a big one. So I'm loving the A cover on this one, the Ivan Rice, Danny Mickey, Brad Anderson deal. Jeff Johns and Francis Portela have just been, again, they've been crushing it on this. The connections of the Ghost Machine universe, starting to kind of come together, all the threads coming to one place. You're starting to see them. Yeah.
And it's starting to make all these really fun series even more fun.
And if you haven't been following Hyde Street, first off, are you even a horror fan? I have to ask.
Right.
The trade paperback is on FOC, getting the first 7 issues for $15. Somebody asked Danny if she's in her right mind. What is $15 for 7 issues? That's crazy, because this is just incredible content that will just suck you in and probably suck your soul out as you're enjoying it, throwing you onto Hyde Street itself. 7 issues, $15. There is no reason you should not be reading this masterpiece. Yeah, absolutely amazing. So yeah, if you're already reading it, get your number 9 cover orders in. If you haven't read it, get your trade order in. You have to be reading it. If you love Radiant Black and you like Batman, the creative team of of Radiant Black is doing a Radiant Black Batman style book in Immortal Legend Batman. I loved the first issue. A lot of Japanese manga and anime and live action flavor in that. So that was a lot of 1980s Japanese fun done in the style of Batman. Also, Inksplosion. Mike Hoffman, 150 pages of incredible artwork by this infamous inker. Yeah, definitely worth grabbing there. Battle Beast gets you caught up with new printings on 1, 2, and 3. Judge Death for you fans of Judge Dredd, 2000 AD and more. I'll talk a little bit more about this in our top 10, but a lot of great stuff. We're getting the Better World trade of Judge Dredd and Brian Boland. Like, this is just insane. Another great one. $40 may seem like a lot, but for what this is the masterpiece editions. Brian Boland, just amazing. I mean, look at that Brian Boland cover. We'll talk about more Rebellion in the top 10. I am a huge Judge Dredd fan, and there's a lot of great Judge Dredd on FOC this week. A lot.
Real fast. Heading back, Karma. Yes. Well, we're not going to talk about Karma because last time we did, we wound up getting a week-long ban from YouTube. But it's a spicy book from our friend Dan Wickline, who was a longtime contributor here on the EXP, published by Dynamite. It's semi-fiction based on his real life as a photographer. You should totally check it out. It is incredibly spicy, but it is also incredibly fun.
Definitely a mature title. David Dismalshin's Incredible Knights versus Samurai finally getting a trade. I don't know what took so long on this, but this is an awesome English Knights versus Japanese Samurai with dragons. Todd McFarlane helped guide David Dismalshin on this. This is an awesome book. So I don't know why it took so long to get trade, but all 6 issues, $13. I am loving these recent Image trades that are just affordable. I missed the $9.99 trades, but man, $13 for 6 issues, $15 for 7 in the way of Hyde Street. You need to buy these if you were not already.
And by the way, if you like David Desmalchin's comic book writing, you like David Desmalchin's acting, check out David Desmalchin's podcast, where he makes James Gunn lay in a coffin and talk about death.
Interviews in a coffin, always fun. Huge one for you guys, because the only way to get this is blind bags. If you've been loving Keen Spot's Mark Spears Monsters, based off of his unbelievable trading card set, here is a prequel tale that is going to just shake comic shops to no end as people come in and buy an ungodly amount of blind bags. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the top 10, because of course that was in the top 10.
You can tell they're counting on you buying an unbelievable amount of blind bags because the incentives start at $250.
Yeah, 1 in 250, 1 in 500, even 1 in 1,000 with the metal variant. Yeah. I want to point out the free in there should not be written there because those are not going to be free. They're going to be costly. Talk to your local comic shop to see if they're even qualifying for them. But they will not be free, I'll tell you. I'm dying. Mr. Terrific, penultimate issue. Monstrous coming to a wrapping end of issue 60. But let's talk about the beginning of things.
Why don't you go take care of your dying, and I will talk a little bit about Mr. Terrific and Fun Comics.
Oh, no. Let's talk. Okay, go for it. You want to talk about Mr. Terrific, or do you want to talk about the very first DC comic ever?
I would rather talk about the very first DC comic ever, and again, fix your dying. The very first DC comic ever, Fun Comics. Guys, when you think about the Atomic Age, when you think about the late 30s, very early 40s, before Batman, before Superman, you had these comics that were basically reprinted strips. You had Fun, which had, Jack Woods, and it had, I'm going to forget a bunch of them, that wound up becoming DC. And then you had, on the other side at Timely, you had things like Detective Dan Dunn and some of these things that were, again, amalgamations of strip comics. put together into one binding and sold as a book. Now, if you wanted to buy a Fun Comics, if you wanted to buy this copy, you're spending an amount of money that would make most of us just go white and fall over. Right?
I mean,
This
it's
is
a
an incredible
1935 book, and it's not
right.
a small book. I remember the very
No.
first time I actually saw one of these. Dinesh Shamanasani of Bad Idea was dragging it out of the floor of Comic-Con in between two slabs of cardboard. Thing's a huge book.
Right.
And
It's
yeah, it's
so rare.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're getting a reprint, the fact that we're getting a facsimile, the fact that we're getting it in a couple of different forms that we can actually truly enjoy is something that we never would have gotten a few years ago. And at the same time, this is one of those books that you've got to, it's like sensational comics or some of these things where you got to kind of know where these characters first debuted to find them. You know, so again, you've got this really cool opportunity here with this facsimile edition to kind of see what comics looked like back in the 30s, because odds are you're never going to be able to own one.
Yeah.
So
lots more amazing things continuing on. Another one I got to point out, One Last Trick by Joseph Schmalke. This is going to be a very interesting one-shot sci-fi piece. Some crazy covers. Joseph has done things like, oh God, yeah, that incredible Viking witch story. I Promised You Darkness, and a few other amazing ones. So Joseph, definitely a very talented creator. Very interested to see this cyber Blade Runner-esque tale. I cannot. I have to. My favorite comic character, one of the first superheroes of the 1930s, Lee Falk's The Ghost That Walked, the hero of Africa, the Phantom, is finally getting a new U.S. series. This is a character that seems to never end in Australia and in Europe, but we go unbelievably long baths of time in the U.S. without any Phantom story. Ray Fox is the man to bring it to us. I am excited. Mad Cave is bringing this back. The Phantom. This is going to be just awesome. Whether it was the incredibly crappy movie of the 90s that I still love to no end, to any variation, the Phantom, the immortal hero in the craziest of ways, is back. Which version of the Phantom we're going to get, it will be very interesting to see. But I'm all in. I am all in with any interpretation of the Phantom. By the way, if you're not reading Phantom Road, completely unrelated to the Phantom, Jeff Lemire, epic. This is just absolutely amazing. I really pushed for this to be nominated for an Eisner. It was nominated for Best New Series when I was a judge, and I think it deserves a lot of attention. I never hear anyone talking about Phantom Road, but it is crazy awesome. So grab your trades on that. There is so much this week, Kyle. Like, do you realize just how much insanity there is this week?
Well, I mean, we can, and there's a lot of stuff we've kind of already talked about. We've already talked about week over week that we can kind of skip over, like Silverhawks, like we talked about Six Gun earlier, like Space Ghost. You know, you don't want to blaze over these things, but like we talk about it seems like every week, and there's a lot to cover this week.
Yeah. But this one's a really interesting one. A lot of great people in this. Shannon Eric Denton, Dirk Blackman. You have Cooper Ball on artwork. But and I love Tahani Farr, a good friend, an amazing artist, doing the cover on this. But Savager looks to be a very interesting 4-issue miniseries from Panic, one of the newer publishers. So definitely something to keep an eye on, especially that Tahani Farr cover. As you said, though, yes, continuing Dynamite series in the way of Silverhawks, Sixth Gun, which we talked about, final issue, but far from the end of the Sixth Gun or the Six Guns from the incredible Cullen Bunn. Space Ghost, look at that Matina cover. Oh, amazing. But absolutely love what's going on in Space Ghost. Obviously, Nick's doing some amazing stuff in the Black Ritual, the Book of Nyx, over in the Spawn universe. We get another giant collection of Super Sons. And then, of course, for those of you guys who have been all in on DC's All In and remember the fate of Booster Gold, it looks like we're finally going to see what that is in Superman as we jump into that alternate future or universe of Darkseid that we left Booster Gold in. Some great, great stuff there. More Superman with Superman Unlimited, thanks to Dan Slott. And, of course, a great crypto cover with the greatest dog, by Mark Spears. Just a lot. And then for Bad Idea, folks, as I dropped Dinesh to, mention the More Fun Comics earlier, a really weird combination of issue 1 and 2 in one binding of They're All Terrible. As They're All Terrible, what was a 3-issue miniseries becomes a 4-issue miniseries of 3 books with that combination 1 and 2. Matt Kent and Ramon Villalobos. So it's going to be some crazy artwork on that new Bad Idea book. So much. Uncle Scrooge getting some Fantagraphics love in a new 3-issue miniseries of the Flintheart Glomgold Sinister Secret. Invisible Man continuing on from Universal Monsters and Image and Skybound with James Tynion IV and Danny. Vampirella gets a new one-shot in the way of the Halloween horror with a ton of homages. And then a big one. I cannot wrap this up without giving a huge love to the beloved Joe Pruitt on this Predator Prey style story of Vikings versus werewolves set in Newfoundland a generation after Leif Erikson discovers North America for the Vikings. This is going to be crazy. This literally, just is going to be crazy, violent, awesome, as Joe Pruitt is back with Marcelo Frusin. If you've ever read Joe Pruitt's writing, it's awesome. I'm hyped on this. Some great covers, too. Are you excited about Viking Moon?
I am.
Yeah, that is going to be cool. Yeah, the best I can compare it to is just reminds me of that Predator movie, Prey, of the Native American fighting, the Predator. Viking versus werewolf in Newfoundland. Whew. Void Rivals continue. If you missed out on the incredible artist edition of Wally Wood's EC stories back when it was at IDW, well, now there's a new expanded edition thanks to Scott Dunbier at Act 4 Publishing. This is going to be an expensive, massive tome because I don't know if you saw, Wally Wood's artwork was huge, like huge artwork. And this is going to be a huge book. But man, it's like owning Wally Wood's original artwork, which I will never be able to afford in my life. That is going to be an awesome one. Definitely let your comic shop know if you would like to order it because that's a big book and an expensive book. But if you don't own the original, and even if you do, this is going to be a big one. You want to wrap it with Zombie Love, Kyle?
This is a anthology from Rodney Barnes' printer, from Rodney Barnes Publishing Company, Zombie Love Studios. This is their Halloween 2025 sampler. Again, if you're interested in getting into some more black horror, horror from the mind that brought you Philadelphia, this is one to check out.
Yeah, I mean, it's got Simon Kudranski artwork also. So if you were loving some of the recent books that we've been FOCing by him, including that awesome Soviet horror story with a bit of a real M, Simon can do some amazing art. So with Rodney and RJ's writing, I'm looking forward to that. So some crazy stuff at Lunar, a ton of stuff at both Penguin Random House and Lunar. So make sure you look over all of the stuff at prhcomics.com and lunardistribution.com. I think it's time we cut to the top 10. What are your thoughts on that, Kyle?
I have no thoughts. I have only limited time.
So let's first do the honorable mention. Alter Ego, which is one of the incredible Tomorrow Publishing books, edited by Roy Thomas. I have to point it out because that incredible Dave Stevens Airboy cover getting reused with new coloring by GW. This should be very fun with a lot of interesting content in it. I like the Alter Egos magazine.
Yeah, I like this one too.
We get to the top 10. Viking Moon. We had just talked about it. So, of course, it had to be placed in the top 10. I think it's going to be a big one and should be deserving of your attention. Just like Hyde Street. We talked up Hyde Street, but I love this Sean Von Gorman piece because it's going to be on a good cardstock, so you can chop this up and put together your own Mr. X-ray glasses, which obviously play a big role in the comic. Now you can have your own, thanks to the incredible Sean Von Gorman.
Buy 2 copies if you're going to cut one up, please.
Buy 5. Give your glasses to your friends. Look at this Brian Bolin masterpiece of Judge Death. The Judge Death mega special for this year is going to give us all sorts of tales, not only with Judge Death, but his other acolytes of deadly judges from the alternate dimension. Beautiful Brian Bolin piece, definitely worth your attention. You know, I've got a soft spot for Judge Dredd. Then I also have that soft spot for the Phantom in number 7. Look at that Dan Brenton cover. The Phantom sitting on his throne. You know what? I got to pull out my my Phantom ring that I always just keep on there. Love the Phantom. I am so excited about this. Well, let's put it on the proper hand so I can punch. That's not how you would punch, but you know I already have a ring on that hand. Eric Gist, me and you were talking about the incredible EM Gist earlier about how amazing he is, but if you're not paying attention, you miss him. Right, Kyle?
Yeah, like I said, if you hadn't introduced me to Ian Gist, I wouldn't be really paying attention to him. I would just be like, oh, that's a cool cover. But once you know the name, you start paying attention, you see all the great stuff they're doing.
And here's one of the things that not everyone's going to pay attention to. This cover is a connecting cover. While it features an obviously amazing piece and starts off the brand new Spirits of Violence, it actually connects to Eric's covers on Spirits of Vengeance number 1 and issue number 6. In fact, Spirits of Vengeance number 1, we see our Ghost Rider looking in one direction that is now countered on that. All right. 2025 Street Fighter and Friends swimsuit special. This rake cover is amazing. I love it because while it is a beautiful pinup-y cover, it really does feel like all of those characters are actually coming down that water slide in their different positions. There is so much in this cover. It is not just a traditional straight shot pinup. This has some real emotion to it that I love with various characters of not only Street Fighter, but Darkstalkers. In number 4, Red Book number 1. This is a big one because it is by Yuko Shimizu. Kyle, do you know who Yuko Shimizu is?
Nope.
I don't think enough people do, but I guarantee you know her creation. She is the creator of Hello Kitty. Back in 1974, Yuko Shimizu created Hello Kitty, but she was only with Sanrio for 2 years. She never made the money that this incredible property did for Sanrio, but she is still an awesome artist and designer in Japan. So I love that James has hired her to do this brilliant cover. A lot of love for Yuko Shimizu because the hardcore Sanrio fans who love Hello Kitty will know that name, and this cover will get way more attention than Orders, I assure you. So make sure you get your order in. All right, Mark Spears blind bag. Let's talk about it. There are 75 different covers available in this blind bag. The main cover is a 1 in 38. Covers 2 through 30 are 1 in 29 chances. Covers 31 through 60 are all foil covers that are a 1 in 420 chance of getting. Covers 61 through 65 are black and white covers that are 1 in 1,000 chances of getting. Covers 66 through 70 are all glow-in-the-dark covers that are 1 in 1,000 chances. And then there are trick covers of the 1 through 75 that are a 1 in 46 chance of getting. So much insanity, so much gambling, so much creative Mark Spears pieces. Yes, 75 different Mark Spears pieces of artwork that are going to be potentially ultra rare. I see people grabbing a large number of these. I don't think anyone's doing the just one. This is not a Tootsie Roll, or this is a Tootsie Roll. You're not licking just once. So prepare, let your comic shop know how many copies of the blind bags you want. These are going to be insane. They're going to blow up. Again, let your comic shop know how many copies you want. and then understand that you're probably wrong and going to want a little bit more. If you're the local comic shop, this might be a big one to order big on. Number 2, something is killing the children. A monster hunter walks into a bar. The record for longest title I've said on the Order Up show. Beautiful Jenny Frison cover of our monster hunter just lining up shot after shot, which I would imagine you're going to need a lot of shots when that is your life, hunting those monsters. All right, big one. The number 1 spot, White Tiger Reborn. It's the Joni Caballero cover. It has everything. Many forms of wielders of the White Tiger amulet. Beautiful anime-esque art style. I love this awesome cover. I am all in for this White Tiger Reborn. Daniel Jose Older, bring me the Immortal Iron Fist or Green Lantern Corps of the White Tiger. I'm looking forward to this. I don't know if you are, Kyle, but this has me hyped. All right, guys. Let's do a quick wrap. Kyle, what do we have later on the EXP this weekend?
The art show is at 7 tonight, and then Nancy's at 9. And then next week we have a full slate of shows. But we will not have any shows on Monday because of Labor Day. So, we won't. The only show we'll have on Monday is Best Coast Comics. So, other than that, the Monday is off, but we will be around for the rest of the week with our normal full slate of shows.
Yeah, keep in mind though, even though Monday a lot of people will have off, comic shop owners will still be having to put in FOC. So, give a little love to your local comic shop who does not get a holiday break as they place those orders, and make sure you get those orders in. The sooner, the better. So maybe some comic shop owners can have a break. I know I'm going to be stuck in my shop, but nevertheless, always worth getting that information to your shop owner early so they might get that break. All right, with that, we will be back next week with an incredible special guest. So, Kyle, take it away.
See you next time.